Bunny hopping. Bunny hopping, also referred to as B-hopping, is a movement mechanic that allows a player to exceed the game-defined speed limit by timing a perfect jump that ignores friction. Because of a single frame near the end of your jump has zero friction applied to it, players have the chance of using this one frame gap to achieve higher velocity or maintain their speed. Although bunny hopping is indeed possible using the spacebar, it is highly recommended to bind your jump to the scroll wheel. This is useful because you can easily trigger many jump presses in a second by scrolling your mouse, making the timing of the one frame gap much easier. To bind your jump key to the mouse wheel, type this in console. Before we begin B-hopping, it is recommended that you approach B-hopping with good timing of your jumps. As a warm-up exercise, stand in one place and jump up and down using your scroll wheel. Try to get a consistent rhythm going. To B-hop, you're going to need to utilize the fundamentals of air strafing while timing your jumps. The first technique we're going to learn is called weaving. Run forward, release W, jump, strafe towards the left, and in one fluid motion, as you're about to hit the ground, jump, and begin your strafe towards the right. If you do this correctly, you'll find that you can do the same vice versa on the right side. This is the most commonly used B-hop technique, and it's what people attempt to do in competitive CS. The next technique is called circle B-hopping. Let's assume you like to B-hop out towards your left side. To perform circle B-hops, run forward, release W, jump, strafe towards the left, and back towards the right before hitting the ground. Then jump and repeat. Although this may seem like weaving with more strafes, this allows you to B-hop in a straight line and is much more useful for B-hopping on blocks along, let's say, a wall. Try mixing up weaving and circle B-hopping. If you're still having a little trouble timing your jumps, try the warm-up exercise we suggested earlier, but combine it into a B-hop. Jump up and down in one place until you feel your jumps are becoming more consistent. Then, start strafing a bit on each hop. If you're timing your jumps and air strafing correctly, you'll come out of jumping in one place and start B-hopping. You may hear the term wiggling described in B-hopping. Wiggling just refers to how people are strafing during their B-hops. It's most often brought up when someone is strafing many times before hitting each hop. By the way, you can strafe as many times as you want before you hit the ground during a B-hop, but it's recommended not to overdo it as you may lose velocity. Please note that B-hopping in CSGO is technically RNG. The term RNG stands for Random Number Generator. This term is miscorrectly used quite a bit in the CSGO/KZ world, but in terms of B-hopping, it is completely warranted to use. Unlike 1.6 in Source, hitting perfect B-hops that allow you to gain and maintain speed does not have anything to do with the timing of your jumps. You will not hit a perfect B-hop with a badly timed scroll or jump, but there's zero guarantee you're going to hit a perfect B-hop with a perfectly timed jump as well. To further iterate on just how RNG plays into B-hopping, a perfect jump is when you hit a plus jump on the exact tick that you hit the ground. A minus jump also needs to occur to hit a hop, but the server can only listen to one input at a time. Basically, you have a 50% chance of hitting a perfect hop, but realistically, you'll average more like 30 to 40% with decent scroll timing. A perf hop will also give you extra height over a non-perfect. Additional height can be achieved via use of the crouch bind. In 1.6 in Source, there's a technique called duck stand-up jumps or crouch boosting. This is when you tap crouch right before jumping in a B-hop so that you stand up as you're hopping. This used to allow you to hit a perfect B-hop in 1.6 in Source, but unfortunately there is no proof that this works in CSGO KZ with the RNG of the B-hopping already in place. Because of the RNG of B-hopping in CSGO, speed management is a hard concept for newer players to grasp. It seems counterintuitive to manage something that is random. It can be done, however, but it's really just a matter of watching your speed panel and grasping the feel of when you hit a perfect B-hop. I cannot stress enough how important it is to get used to when you hit a perfect B-hop versus when you don't. The more aware you get of how a perfect B-hop sounds, accelerates, and feels, the better you can learn to control it, strafe out of it, and utilize it for jumps in the KZ realm. You will learn how to consistently manage perfect B-hops for long strings of B-hop sections that require more than 250 units per second, utilizing a technique called crouching in the technical KZ video. Let's look at some of the other B-hop jumps. A 180 B-hop is when you simply run forward, strafe left or right until you have turned 180 degrees, and then hop. This is useful for jumps that are too far / very hard to long jump, especially on tiny blocks. Please don't use this as a crutch for completing KZ maps. A 360 B-hop is much like a 180 B-hop, except, you guessed it, you do a 360 degree turn. Run forward, strafe left or right until you've completed a 360 turn, B-hop, and strafe out of it. If you hit a perfect B-hop and your strafes are synced correctly, you can accomplish realistic gaps of 325 to 330 units. Now, it's also called a 360 hop because for jump stats, you should get no more than 360 pre-speed. However, you may be wondering if there's a way to hit the 380 units per second speed cap, and yes, there is. Welcome to 380 360 B-hops. Pre-strafe just as you would a long jump, except do a 360 B-hop at the end. This is going to require a smooth turn, a lot of mousepad room, and a perfect B-hop. If you perform this correctly, you'll hit the 380 units per second speed cap and be able to accomplish any giant gap in KZ. A multi-B-hop is just like it sounds. It's multiple B-hops, and if you hit the 380 units per second speed cap while B-hopping, you can travel very far distances. Although it's fun to get jump stats on multi-B-hops, it's much more consistent to utilize a 380-360 B-hop for getting across a huge gap. A drop B-hop is when you jump off a higher surface, B-hop when you land, and strafe out of it. This is useful for comboing in maps, and some maps actually implement drop B-hop blocks. A weird jump is similar to a drop B-hop, but with a lower falling distance. Instead of jumping off a higher surface, you pre-strafe off of one. There are two techniques left that are going to be covered in this B-hop tutorial, however, they are completely optional and are never required to complete a KZ map. Backwards B-hopping. Backwards B-hopping is much the same as normal B-hopping, except you move your mouse the opposite direction that you are strafing. Hold S to run backwards, hold A, and instead of moving your mouse to the left to start strafing left, move your mouse to the right to strafe left. It's also the opposite for strafing right. The weaving and circle techniques apply to backwards B-hopping in the same way that it does for regular B-hopping. Sideways B-hopping. Sideways B-hopping is the most complex form of B-hopping, but it's actually quite easy once you become used to air strafing and B-hopping. Instead of using A and D to air strafe, you'll be using W and S to air strafe. Strafe towards the right, jump, hold W, and move your mouse to the left to strafe left relatively. And when you need to strafe back, hold S and move your mouse to the right to strafe right relatively. I say relatively because if you're sideways B-hopping to the left, you need to reverse your mouse movements. The weaving and circle techniques apply to sideways B-hopping as well. If you practice well enough, you can transition from sideways to backwards to forwards to backwards to forwards, back to sideways, all the way to forwards, double take to sideways, and back to forwards facing backwards with your chair facing away from the monitor. It's completely unnecessary and useless, but it's a neat trick that will ensure you're the life of the party. Congratulations! You now have a good and correct understanding of B-hopping.